This game seriously blew me away, and I don't even like platformers. I think the last 2D platformer I played for more than 30 minutes was Actually, that wasn't even a 2D platformer, that was a 3D platformer, but that was Pac Man World on the PS1 back in like 2006. I tried playing Spyro, but I had an old used disc that was scratched, so every time I tried to save a dragon, it would just freeze me like this. So I don't have many comments on those games since I was like 8, and ever since I never really could get into platformers, especially 2D platformers. I was born in 1998, right after the 2D platformers kind of phased out, and my family was super cheap, so I never really got into popular games when I was a kid like Crash Bandicoot or anything from Nintendo. I was lucky enough to secure this gem though, even if it was 5 years after the release. As I grew up, I never really found platformers fun. The gameplay seemed kind of repetitive to me, and the idea of beating a level just was kind of boring to me, and the mechanics always just felt frustrating and not really gratifying to beat the challenges. The whole game being based around jumping around to more and more challenging places to jump just wasn't appealing to me, and I didn't really get much satisfaction out of beating these levels. Most of the games I like are very challenging, and there are some form of satisfaction or reward for completing a grind or beating a really hard boss, and platformers just never really gave me that feeling. I know there's some platformers that are designed that way, but just traditionally they never gave me that feeling or that satisfaction. Then enter Hollow Knight. Recently, I've been on a mission to try new games, so I've been making a list, and Hollow Knight was by far one of the most highly recommended games on that list. So when it went for sale on Steam in May for like $6, I had to pick it up. Hell, I've spent more on a sandwich before. This game blew me away. It was a little slow to get into, but there was so much more to this world than meets the eye. There is an actual story, lore, and the world was one of the most visually impressive masterpieces I've ever seen in a game. This is not my favorite game of all time, but this is by far visually my favorite game of all time. Every asset and background is hand drawn with meticulous detail and is so immersive. I never thought a 2D game with a cartoony art style would be so immersive. This is a classic example of aesthetic versus graphics. There's a trend nowadays that for a game to have good graphics, that it needs to be hyper realistic. Kids these days frustrate the fuck out of me when they say that they can't play a game because the graphics are bad, because firstly, gameplay is more important. I mean, look at this stupid ass article that says Undertale, Minecraft, RuneScape, and Halo 3 were ruined by bad graphics. Are you fucking kidding me? But besides that, there is a difference between graphics and aesthetic. Like, Stardew Valley doesn't have good graphics. It's like less than 480p, but it has a great aesthetic and all the assets are very visually pleasing to look at. And a game can look hyper realistic but still look like shit. Anyways, Hollow Knight doesn't look hyper realistic, but the art and sound design create an immersive environment. I'm going to continue just showing early game clips because I don't want to spoil anything because the story is a really big part of this game. But I felt legitimately terrified when I first entered Deep Nest for the first time, and when thinking about which area would be my favorite, honestly, I can't choose. They're just all so great for their own reasons. Oh yeah, and the soundtrack is really good too. Okay, let's talk about gameplay. Why was I able to play Hollow Knight for 40 hours, which is far more than all my other platforming experience combined? Don't get me wrong, some of the heavy platforming parts still frustrated me. I struggled a lot in areas where I'm sure that experienced platforming players wouldn't have, but the game is just fun, and I think I figured out why. Firstly, the immersive world I mentioned is really fun to explore, and it's non-linear, so you can go wherever you want if you have the abilities or items unlocked to do so. So whenever I found a dead end, it just made me want to explore more to figure out how to get past that dead end. Secondly, every boss has a significant unlock for you. All the bosses that frustrated the fuck out of me, especially you, the magma spitter guy, had a significant unlock that progressed me further throughout the game. So as I get frustrated with the bosses and the mechanics because I'm not used to fighting bosses like this in any other games I play, but when I eventually got past it, I knew I was going to be able to explore some new areas, so it kept me going and it kept me motivated. Also, I think it's very hard to get bored in this game. There's a ton of content, and even when I beat the game, I felt like there was more to explore. The gameplay also just feels smooth, and I was playing on a laptop keyboard, which I know it wasn't designed for, but when I got the hang of things, it felt like I was in good control of my character. Also, the direction of the game never really felt misleading to me. In other platformers, I had memories of trying to like double jump to a certain spot that I actually couldn't, but I kept getting so close that the game made me believe that if I hit the jump just right, I could have made it. So whenever I didn't have an unlock for something in Hollow Knight, it was obvious that something was missing. If there was a dead end or something, it was obvious that there was something that was missing, and it was obvious that I couldn't get past that point until I had something else. So I never found myself spending 10 minutes trying to jump to a certain platform that I couldn't get to. Finally, thank God, there are actual mechanics other than just double jumping, and you don't get access to them all right away. Actually, double jump is one of the last mechanics that you unlock in the game. As you progress through the game, your options of getting around just get more and more interesting over time. I was so sick of trying platformers where the mechanics are jump left, jump right, double jump, and this was so refreshing to me. On top of that, with the mechanics and also different items in the game, there's a lot of different ways that you can explore the world. In conclusion, Hollow Knight was super fun to play. Hollow Knight got me to do what I never thought any game would do: get me to finish a 2D platformer, and I highly recommend it. 10 out of 10 Renar Weeds.
Wow.
It's not my favorite game by any means, nor do I think this will convince me to get into other platformers right away, but even if it's not my cup of tea, I had a blast, and even though it's not my genre, I can recognize this game for the masterpiece it is and really appreciate it. Seriously, this is visually the most beautiful game that I've ever seen. And I had fun with platforming, which is not a genre that I've ever played. Like I said, I spent probably about 40 hours in this game, and I've never spent that many hours on all the platformers I've ever played combined. So thanks a ton for watching. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing. I hope you noticed, but I got a new microphone, and the audio, I'm hoping the audio quality is going to be significantly better going forward, and I have a lot of new plans, a lot of plans for videos and trying new things. So yeah, consider subscribing so I can help grow my channel and show these videos to more than 50 people. So have a good one.